Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the weekly Daily podcast. Thanks for tuning in. It's good to be here Sunday afternoon. It's been a chilly day. It snowed last night a little bit. I got the fire in the background on the YouTube video. I think I talked about that last time. I've been watching so much YouTube fireplaces, so many of them, because I'll just throw it on and I'll read, or I'll just have it in the background, that I'm starting to get judgmental on the types of fires, like ones that look fake or too real, or not too real, too fake, or like the wood. I don't like the way they stack it and it burns. So I'll just filter. There's just a million different types of 12-hour long videos of fireplaces. That's a funny thing that nobody predicted, I'm sure. Back in 2006 when YouTube came out, just the thought of like, let me make a 12-hour video of a fireplace, and then people will just have that on for half a day. Ads will pop up occasionally, and I'll make $1 million. That's a solid business plan. If you tried to explain that to a teacher in high school, in 2006, they probably would have said, "What's YouTube?" YouTube. It's been almost 20 years of YouTube. It's good to be here though. I was planning on doing this earlier this morning, but I ended up getting up a little bit late, and then I made a massive breakfast / lunch. I had 4 eggs, 4 potatoes, not like full size baked potatoes, but like maybe a quarter of this, maybe like a full 1 or 2 solid-sized potatoes, and 12 pieces of bacon. I'm trying to hit weight. I got a big weigh-in coming up. I just need to eat food to live. You guys know about that? Nutrition, vitamins. But I had that meal, and then I immediately wanted to take a nap for the last 3 hours, so I just drank some black tea. Did it give me energy? We'll see. If I nod off and fall asleep in about 10 minutes, then the answer is no. But also, I'm hoping my upstairs neighbor has been off and on playing like dubstep music, which is hilarious because they're like 60. You'd think they're like a 24-year-old just out of college rave couple, but they're just like, let's blast the music on Sunday. Also, they were playing, he was playing drums earlier. I guess they have a drum set, like a electronic one. And it was, obviously that's super annoying. Even though it's electronic, you still just hear it like with the bass when they hit it, it's just like pounding the floor. And then you hear the plastic, fake drums or whatever that they're hitting. And so that's just super loud. But it's not funny. It's annoying, but it's also funny in the sense that it's like, I can hear everything you're doing. So A, it's annoying, but also you stink. Okay? Get some rhythm, Why don't you hide your lack of talent? Would you? I couldn't imagine, man. If you live in an apartment, if you're like a family with kids, that's tough, obviously, for people around because kids are just going to be kids, and whether they're running around, crying, screaming, that's just very loud. But once you get to certain, like kids who play instruments, like in band, like trumpet, trombone, like these loud flute, whatever it is, that's, if you don't have a house and space away from neighbors, that's like torture. That's like, obviously, I think, very poor etiquette. Which I get it, like if you're in a family, you don't have the means to have a house. But also, if that's the case, and your daughter wants to play the clarinet, you just got to look her in the eyes and go, you know what? Let's play soccer instead. okay? You're just not cut out to be in band because we don't have enough money to support your dreams in a good etiquette way. Wow, I really space out the words a lot. I like to think before I get to a part that's not even funny. It's always good to think through. And you do this long pause, and then when you do speak, you go, couldn't find it, guys. Couldn't find the funny. I just paused for a while to then say something that's still not worth your ears listening to. But no, it's oh man. Band. Everybody should have the ability to play band if they want, okay? That's the direction we're going. Everybody, they say, should get free Wi-Fi. Everybody should get a free phone. Everybody should get a free French horn. Okay? That's my opinion, and I'll die on that hill. French horns are, I don't know anything about French horns. They, I assume, came from France, and for some reason, you put one of your hands inside the horn while you play. Honestly, that's something people don't talk about, and really, now that I brought the topic up, is pretty frustrating. Why would you make an instrument designed to have to put your hand in there? If you need to block some of the air, then make the instrument to have a little thing in there. Why put your hand in the horn while that's crazy. That's France for you, The French, they built the instrument. They're like, it's pretty good, but it's way better if you put your hand in it. And all the, the French people who were playing, they're like, oh, cool. Can we design it to have that effect without your hand in it? They were like, no, put your hand in there. We would like to see your hand in the horn. Okay. And you know what? That's why, okay, I don't have anything funny there. You know what? I'm just gonna cut it off if I try to go into a funny riff and then my brain already goes, you're not gonna find the funny. I'm shutting it down. Okay? This whole podcast is just gonna be me starting a ramble and then stopping it because I'm like, it's not gonna be funny. No, I won't do that. I'll ramble a little bit. That's pretty much what I did when I first was thinking about names for this podcast. I remember thinking maybe I'll make it Rambling Benjamin. But I think the Weekly Daily is more appropriate, a little better, little less dumb. There was a couple year period. I didn't go by Benjamin per se. I've never gone by Benjamin. It's always been Ben. But when I traveled to Central America and lived there for a year, it just was easier to say that my name was Benjamin, or Ben Hameen is what I would say, because when I would say like when you're speaking to people from Nicaragua or Central America in Spanish, and you say Ben, it's like I guess it's not really a common name or a name that they're familiar with. So I realized pretty quickly when I introduced myself to the natives there, like, my name's Ben, that they're like, what? So it was just easier for me to be like Ben Hameen, and they're like, oh, okay, that name is not super common there, but at least a name that they can remember and say back. So then I made a travel channel, kind of a travel channel called Traveling Benjamin, which, if you guys are looking for some hot videos out of Nicaragua that have dozens, if not hundreds, of views over the last 6 years, check it out. That is, I did like 40 videos. I've talked about it before, but a lot of videos in Nicaragua, Costa Rica, I think Mexico, that just, nothing great about them, but kind of documenting probably some places that you may not have seen before, more mainstream touristy areas. I was in little more off the beaten path spots. But with that, I did Traveling Benjamin. I even started ESL Benjamin. I did a little YouTube channel about teaching some English lessons on the whiteboard. Those have much fewer views. And then I actually started a podcast then, 2018, and did some English lessons. I did like 10 episodes. It was such a pain because it was not me rambling. It was kind of me scripting stuff out and then speaking very slowly. And then if I like stuttered or, went off script for a second, messed up, I'd go back and like edit everything. And it was, it was a lot. But I didn't realize until I stopped doing that. I moved out to Denver at that point. I stopped doing that podcast. And I think I just stopped. I hadn't looked at it. But when I look back at it a little bit later, each episode had like over 1,000 views. And I was like, wow, okay. That's way better than this podcast, or, just something that I didn't expect really anything out of. And it's like, okay, there's a demand out there maybe for just, speaking slowly in English, giving some little lessons and information about the English language. I genuinely remember because I came out to Denver because I found a job out here. But I remember before getting that job offer thinking that if I don't find a job in the next month or so, literally my plan was I'm just going to move to Mexico and just pursue is a very loose term, but keep doing this English podcast and English lessons, and then probably teach English some, but try to grow that, maybe grow the travel channel and try to make like enough money that way, living in obviously a much cheaper area. Although Mexico City, I mean, I'm sure it's cheaper than Denver if I had to guess, but it's pretty big. It's one of the biggest cities in the world. It's probably not cheap like Nicaragua, but anyways, man, again, I've said this a lot. I'll ramble sometimes and be like, I don't know where I started, guys. But I started on the Benjamin, went by Benjamin for a hot second, and did a couple channels with Benjamin, but now I am, I go by Ben. You guys get it. That's my name. But it's been a busy week again. I feel like I say that every week. Busy week, but a good week. Temperatures have been getting colder more consistently. Next week's supposed to be like in the 60s. I don't know why I talk about the weather on here. Like it's, the local news. And I'm like, here's the section. Send it off to the weatherman. And I'm like, guys, here's the 10-day forecast. And most of you guys are like, we don't live in Denver. This is not interesting to anybody. But it did snow a little bit last night, which was not in the forecast that I was aware of, which is pretty typical for Denver, where it's just like, you don't even know they're calling for snow or there's possibility for it, and you just wake up and then you're like, wow, there's 6 inches of snow. I did not know that was going to happen. But my weekends have gotten, the busier I've gotten, the more I've had to like really be productive on the weekends. And I have been, but it's tough because you just want some time to rest, you just want to chill a little bit. And especially too, I've been running a little bit more. And yesterday I went out for the longest run I've done in a while. I did 7 miles. And then, I just had a bunch of stuff I had to do. And I'm like, dude, I'm ready to take a nap again. But I couldn't. And so I just battled through. I will say this, though. I had a late night last night with comedy stuff. And I've been off the coffee, mostly off caffeine. I've got some black tea, and Noon, these electrolyte tablets that I have, and they have some caffeine in them too. So I try to stay away from those, but I'll also have them sometimes. And I had those last night around 5 or 6 because I knew I was going to be out late. And man, I felt good. I felt like consistent. So it's nice to step back from caffeine a little bit and then maybe come back to it a little bit and see that, oh, it does seem to keep me up, because there for a while I've been tired and just lethargic. So caffeine, appreciate you. Um, but yeah, this morning got up, slept in a little bit, ate that massive breakfast. Man, I tell you what, bacon, I can eat it all. I don't know, people, when you go to a Denny's or a Waffle House or these breakfast places that have like whatever your breakfast of champion, number one, number two, but whatever offerings they have that are a plate of a collection of common breakfast foods. You always have a meat on there, or you usually have the option of a meat, and it's like 2 slices of bacon. Like, are we about to fight, or are you just trying to get me upset? 2 pieces of bacon is embarrassing, and restaurants that offer that as the meat selection should be ashamed. Okay? And I would like that to be, that's, if you own a breakfast place and 2 pieces of bacon is what you put on your $14.99 plate. 2 pieces of bacon, 2 eggs, some grits, and one slice, 2 apple slices. It's like, get out of here, dude. How dare you? I'm a grown man and I want some meat and protein, and I don't want to pay for it. Tell me, where's that at? I want all the bacon, none of the pay. I had I don't know if he listens to this, but he might. Sometimes he listens to it, but if he does, he'll know. And it's fine. I didn't tell him this, so he might. I don't think he meant to do it, but I went and hung out at his show this week, and one of my buddies, he was asking for some cash to buy some beer. He didn't bring his card with him or something like that, so I gave him $20. He paid for the beer. He gave me $12 back, and then he said, "I'll Venmo you the difference." And then he Venmo'd me $7.50, meaning that I lent him $20 and he repaid me $19.50. And I was like, is this like an alpha move where it's like, yo, can I borrow some of that money? And then you like just almost pay all of it back, but not quite, just to be like, hey man, who's your daddy kind of deal, But I thought that was fun. I mean, that's not a nice thing to do if that's on purpose, but also 50 cents. I do have a job, so I'm not 50 cents away from being in a bad spot. So I just thought it was kind of fun. I was like, I'm assuming he was maybe thinking that he was maybe thought he gave me $13 back and then paid $7.50 to be like, here's 50 extra cents for a tip. It was either that. It was either here's 50 extra cents for a tip, but I messed up the math, so it wasn't, or I'm paying you 50 cents less and I need you to know who has the upper hand. So I'll ask him about it this week. I'll confront him. I'll send him an IOU. I'll send him an invoice for 50 cents. Here's something that annoyed me though. I took a shower. This has been going on for a long time, and it's my fault. I obviously should get it looked into, but my shower, the shower knobs are infuriating. One of them is like, it's like kind of broken to where like you go to turn it, but it's so loose that it doesn't really turn. You have to kind of like tilt it and angle it and then put pressure on it to kind of get the hot or cold appropriate amount that you want. And because it's so difficult, it's so hard to like get it to a comfortable temperature. So it takes a couple minutes to just get that temperature that I'm looking for. But then it will like just randomly go to scalding hot as I'm showering. So then I spend like the next 5 minutes trying to tinker with it to get it back to the, and then you're just in the shower upset. Okay, the shower's supposed to be like a happy place. not like you know, an unhappy place. That's how good my vocabulary is. Is it vernacular? Is that vocabulary? I think it is, but I'm not 100% sure. That's how bad my vocabulary is, though. That I said happy place, and then I was like, what's a synonym or an antonym for happy? Unhappy. That's the best I could come up with, guys. That's where my brain function is right now. And you know what? It is what it is. There's a lot of comedians out there like Gary Goldman who say, Dan Cook's another good example. Use bigger words to get laughs because some, different words that are used that people aren't uh, expecting or aren't quite as used to can be a funny, silly thing. But I just like to go on stage and say like all the 3 and 4 letter words. Those are my favorite. I do a lot of, and then he said, and then she said, and I was like, what? And then he was like, and then that's my comment. If you haven't seen me, I just do sassy dialogue back and forth. That's pretty much my act. You should come out. I'm getting ready to set up some headlining dates for next year. It's going to be 45 of sassy conversations. Gonna start just going full into my sassy character. No, that's not it. I've been working hard on my jokes, and I've been excited about the in general excited, but the last week or two I've been working out some new stuff, which has been good. I think I've told you guys in previous podcasts, but this month I've worked out a couple. There's definitely a handful of ideas that like didn't fully get fleshed out, but I got a bit that's fleshed-ish out about working at Dick's Sporting Goods in the shoe department. It's not incredible, but it's got some structure, and there's like a part of the joke that is pretty funny, I think. And if that's the only part, like over the next couple weeks as I do the joke, if that's the only part of the joke that's working really well, then I still have the ability to kind of take that and then pull it into another chunk about working. So even if the joke as a whole isn't working well, I can take a piece of it and add it on to another joke to just expand that joke and have something new. So that's been exciting. I've also been working through, as I've said in the past, this long story about clogging a toilet in high school at a church camp. Whoops. Didn't mean to do that. And I did it last night for the first time. I did it over the weekend twice for the first time at like a legitimate show. I've tried it a couple times at like from the host spot and from like very low stakes, a low stakes point of view, shows that only have a couple people. So really it's like you can't really get a read on like, is this funny or is this not? What parts are funny, what parts are not when you have, 2 people that are half paying attention. So that was very cool to do that. To just kind of go into more detail about the shows that I did this weekend. I did some mics and hung out at a couple shows during the week, just kind of working out new material and trying to memorize some of the new bits and just get some reps with them throughout the week. And then over the weekend, Friday, Saturday, I was at Denver Comedy Underground, which is very fun spot. I've started hanging out there a little bit more. I'm helping out making pizzas. I said I have a bachelor's degree in business. Can I make pizzas? And they were like, well, send us some references. And so I dug deep, found some people that could vouch for me. Not necessarily for pizza, but I've made like sandwiches and salads and stuff in the past. So they were like, that's good enough. No, that's obviously not true. Sometimes I ramble in like a serious demeanor, and I'm like, this isn't funny, and also I think I'm just misleading people. You guys get it though. You guys, I think you guys understood I was joking, but I am helping out, making some pizzas, doing some spots there. It's a very fun room. It's in the basement of like a, what do you call it? A non-denominational church, but it's like a church. I don't even know. It's it's not for Christianity. It's just like a spiritual or non-denominational. I don't know if non-denominational is only specific to Christianity. I don't think it is, but again, I'm an idiot. I don't know what I'm talking about. Way more often than I like to say out loud. But it's in the basement of that. They have like a little mini it's not a theater per se. I guess kind of like a little black box theater, a little basement level, low ceilings. You got I think capacity's like a little over 100. So everybody gets tight in there. They do 2 shows a night, Friday and Saturday. They have shows on Thursday too. But did 2 shows on Friday, 2 shows on Saturday. They were very fun. The early shows on Friday and Saturday both had over 100, and then the late shows each had, I think, close to 80. So they were great crowds all around. I ran a decent amount of different material through the 4 different sets, which was nice to kind of work on some newer stuff, but also do like, a super hot set and then some newer stuff. And then also on Saturday, I was trying to bring back some old jokes that work well, but I haven't said in a while, and kind of just like, all right, let me try to get these on film, see how they come out, see how the crowd reacts. And so that was fun to mix it up. The crowds were good. The clogged toilet story, though, as I mentioned, I did that twice. I did that on the late show Friday and the late show Saturday. In the late show Friday, it was the first time I've ever done it like at a show, and it went okay. Honestly, it went okay. I wasn't like, this is the best thing ever, but also I was like, this is something for sure. Like, I got some pretty solid input to be like, there are jokes throughout. People seem interested in it. Obviously need to, continue to work on tightening it, maybe change a couple things, but there's hope for this for sure. And then Saturday night, which was last night, I did it, and it did pretty well, honestly. Like, I felt very good about it, and honestly got some pretty big laughs in with just like a couple places throughout, which shows me a couple things. It shows that, obviously some of those are working, but also if you're getting some big laughs throughout, it's showing that people are engaged throughout. And it's it's the longest bit I have. It's like 5 or 6 minutes. And with longer bits like that, if it's not that interesting or not that funny, you can lose people's attention. And so getting big laughs kind of throughout is not, you wouldn't do that if people have lost their interest. So that was cool. It was good to get feedback there. There's definitely some spots in there that I need to tweak or find better punchlines, or, just edit and keep working through it. The very ending, though, that's going to be the biggest thing for me to maybe figure out, because I have an ending right now that kind of closes the story with like a light joke. So I go from like, having some fairly big laughs throughout, as you try to do with jokes in general. But I get to the very end, and it's one of those where it ties it all together. It makes it very obvious that the story is closing, which I think is important with stories, or at least I've found in my experience over the last year or two trying to tackle stories. But it's not a huge laugh, and I'm struggling really hard to find if it's possible. It's certainly possible to get a big laugh, but I just haven't found that yet. And so the best thing I've been able to find is a light giggle that also closes the story up, which I think can be okay. But it did feel weird yesterday. I did that at the end, and it was like a light giggle, and then I was like, that's my set, which is a weird. I mean, plenty of people will end their set on maybe like a more serious note, or like with a story that is more meaningful at the very end, and maybe it'll be funny throughout, but they end on a more like genuine note. And that's fine, but I just hadn't ended like that before, so transitioning from the end of the joke to be like, thank you guys so much. You've been super fun. My name's been like, I kind of in my head was like, I'm so used to having to end with a big laugh that when it wasn't a huge laugh, I was like, well, that was the big closer. See you later. Which is fine. I mean, it's fine, but like I'm not beating myself up over that. But long term, you want to try to be smooth, a little smoother probably from last joke to thank you guys so much. I'm leaving the stage now. So I'll work through that. This next week is super busy for me, which, how many times do I say busy? It's super busy, busier than usual. I've got a show on Tuesday in Denver at, I think, a winery. I'm going to the mountains, Eagle, Colorado on Wednesday to do a show. I'm hosting for the first time at Looney's Comedy Corner in Colorado Springs on Friday and Saturday. 2 shows each night, so a lot of shows. I'm going to be traveling around a little bit. Should be very fun. Hopefully can test out some of these. We'll see. We'll see how much time I have, but might be able to test out some of the newer stuff. But that is what I've got coming up this next week. Wow. I got the yawns. The tea helps for about 25 minutes. But I've got, what do I have after that? I'm flying out to Tennessee to do that Blue Ridge Comedy Festival at the Blue Ridge Comedy Club. That'll be the 13th, and it's like a competition. So if I advance, there'll be some more dates. We'll see. TBD. Then I'm doing a Don't Tell kind of at the end of the month, and a couple other shows. I would say check out my Linktree, but I haven't updated that yet. I need to update that. Check out my Instagram post, my terrible graphic. I need more pictures. It's a thing where you post your, a lot of people, it's not, you don't have to, but a lot of comics will post their dates for like the upcoming month. And I'm just running out of pictures. I didn't have any new pictures. So I was like, what picture can I use to put my dates on? It's first world problem. I don't have enough pictures of my own face. Speaking of pictures of my own face, I just took one recently. I've been looking at new glasses. I would like to get new glasses. And I was on a website where you can try them on, but you need to upload a picture of your face. So I did that to be able to see what the frames look like as best as possible. And I'm looking at, I think it's fine having this vanilla these are kind of vanilla glasses, just whatever. They look fine, I think, but there's nothing special about them. And I used to have those circular blue ones that were a little more unique. And I hate to say this, and I could be wrong, but I do feel like I would like to get some kind of unique glasses that add a little bit of character and color to my face. And I think and I hope that will translate to better comedy. And let me explain. That sounds like very much like I'm not funny unless I have funny looking glasses on, then people laugh at me. That's not what I'm saying. But I think you see a lot of comedians that it all kind of clicks together when they find the appropriate look. Meaning their look kind of matches the energy and the style of jokes that they're putting off. A good example, I think, is Dusty Slay. If you're not familiar with Dusty Slay, he's one of my favorite comedians. He's very funny. He is a comedian out of, I think he's originally from Alabama, but he's out of Nashville now. He's got really long hair, long straight hair, big kind of like aviator type glasses, but not, just aviator shaped glasses. And then he wears like a trucker hat. And he's kind of starting to pop off over the last year or two, get bigger and bigger. And before so his first like 10 years of comedy, he had kind of like a shorter haircut and more of like a stylish look. He was trying to look like, he's probably just trying to look like nice and like well kept up, shorter haircut, fashionable haircut. And then I think he really started to like catch some waves, hang 10. Really started to get some momentum when and he's talked about this on his podcast and in general before, where he just like didn't used to wear the hat, but he grew his hair out, and then one night he just decided to wear a trucker hat, and I think he said it just like worked. Like the energy and the vibe that he's trying to present, connect with the people in the crowd, I think wearing that hat made it click, and the crowd was like, we get it. And that's what I sometimes wonder and kind of feel like maybe having kind of more unique glasses will maybe give me the ability to walk on stage and maybe just look a little, whether it's look a little goofier, sillier, more unique. Just, I'm not saying I'm right. This is just, I'm talking out loud. But it might allow the crowd to kind of better understand from the get-go, like, oh, this is a goofball. This is a comic. Rather than right now, I feel like with vanilla glasses like this, I can walk on stage and then maybe people think like, oh, this guy, whether it's he's a nerd or he just looks like a vanilla comedian or like whatever judgments they might have. And they might not have these. I'm really getting deep and struggling to find the point here. But if I have kind of goofier glasses, I think if I go on stage and people see that, it immediately gives them the vibe of like, oh, he's a silly, goofy guy with just like a unique thing. And then when I go into jokes, it's like, yeah, he's telling jokes. Versus maybe some more people take this as like, this guy just came from a 9-to-5 job and is going to lecture us on and give us a sales presentation or something. So I don't know if that made sense. I hope it did, but that's my thought. And also, as I start, my hair is thinning and I start to lose hair. Sounds bad, but I feel like to distract you from what's going on up here, the thinning, if I have something silly and goofy and unique down here around my eyes, that'll add some character and take away from the flaw that is my thin hair. So that's you guys ever, is that relatable? Do you guys think about your glasses to be like, how can I distract from my poor hair genetics so that people will laugh at me, but not for being bald, but for having glasses and jokes? I don't know. That was a long ramble. But I've got a lot of stuff I got to do today. It's a constant process, man. Writing new jokes. I'm getting more into stories. And I've said it before, but stories are very interesting. Honestly, there's a lot of comics that I respect a lot in the scene that are above me, or even people that are on the same level, or even below, like people that I want to start being more proactive about really diving into fully figuring out the best way to tell stories. So I feel like I've figured out a lot of ways, a lot of tricks, a lot of things that work for me and seem to be working with the formula of storytelling. But also would love to talk with some other people who are very good at it as well and get their input, what their thought process is writing it, because it's a very different, I've said this before. I repeat stuff so much. And for the non-comics listening to this, it's probably not that relatable, but I think some of the behind the scenes stuff is interesting for non-comics to listen to, just to hear the thought process of what myself and what other comics are kind of thinking through when you're trying to build a set, an act, find the correct words to say, the correct order. There's a lot of stuff. I mean, obviously, a big part of what we're doing is trying to rehearse and get this stuff all down to make it seem like we're just stream of consciousness on stage, just like being funny. But it is a lot of work that goes into building this stuff little by little by little. I mean, we're talking about, I'm basically at 5 years of comedy at this point. And, I mean, I've written a lot, I've performed a lot, but at the end of the day, a lot of that is not that good. So you're kind of just filtering out to get the best stuff. And then you're like, okay, over the first 5 years, how much time do I actually have that crushes? And it dwindles more and more the more I've done it, as my expectations get higher, which is a good thing. But, as those expectations go up, you just get, as you write stuff out, you realize some stuff just doesn't make the cut. You got to keep working towards having those jokes get better and better. And another story that I've been working on, and I've said it before, is running for president in 8th grade. And just that whole situation, which is me running for president in 8th grade, and I decided to sing a song instead of give like a traditional speech. And I cut out a piece of cardboard and like markered the strings on it to pretend like I was playing a banjo. It was honestly very embarrassing. I wish that I had some of the what's a good word for it? Delusion. I mean, we all have delusion. All of us doing comedy, you got to have a little delusion, but I had like such a level of, I didn't feel shame that much. At least up to that point. I feel it now. But up to that point, I would just be like full blown, wild, goofy, silly, dumb. And it's just like, whatever, man. That's just what it is. And yeah, let's just go sing a song to everybody in middle school and lose big. So I'm trying to find the beats to that story. And it does, I feel like I'm turning a corner, which is awesome, because up before I'm working on the running for president story, I feel like I've kind of figured out this clogged toilet story. Before the clogged toilet story, I have one story that I've figured out. And that story is my closer. Like, it's basically my best joke. And now that I feel like I've figured out this clogged toilet story, I'm starting to realize, like, oh, I get it. I'm starting to get it. And a big part of the formula is literally just doing it. Like, write out the whole thing, go out and just say all this stuff. And then you'll naturally start to find beats. But it's very much an editing process, more so than most jokes I write. If you write a joke about whatever, laptops, you're like, here's the words, here's the setups, here's the punchlines, I'm memorizing it. You go out, test it, some of it works, some of it doesn't, you change from there. With the story, it's like, it's really hard to write out a 10-minute story and memorize it line by line. That's just not really natural. So it's a different way at approaching it. And I think a big part of that approach is like, just go do it. Just go run. Just go say it all and then keep writing. And it's like a much longer process where a traditional joke that I write within a week, a lot of times you can write it out, go say it, recite it, have it memorized, and get input within a week to be like, this is a pretty good joke or this is not a good joke. With the story, it feels like closer to a month plus, where it's like, run it, change it, edit it, shorten it, keep at like it's just a bigger uh it's a bigger cow to wrangle. That's not a phrase, but it's a bigger beast to wrangle, to handle. And I accept that challenge. I want to keep writing very good jokes, traditional jokes, but the story element is what I've always been interested in, how I came into comedy, what I wanted to do, what I feel like in just my day-to-day life, what I do is just ramble to people, talk their ear off about stories that have happened in my life and experiences, things like that. And that's the comedy I enjoy listening to. Nate Bargatze, all the great storytellers who tell these very interesting stories but keep them very funny throughout. And I think that's a long form comedy when you're doing 45 plus minutes. The best way to do it, where you're like doing stories that let the audience get to know you better and they can relate to a lot of these stories. You tell them in a maybe relatable way, but you also have those punches and laugh points throughout. So, man, I'm excited. The last month or two, I've been feeling much better physically, mentally, creatively. And yeah, I'm starting to see some of these bits kind of work out, and it's exciting to do some new stuff and fit that in and have that new fear of excitement, but combined with fear. Where with your old jokes that do well, you get to a point where you do them enough where you're like, okay, this is fun. It's fun to kill. Love it. But also there's a lot of fun around creating something new. And a lot of the fun comes from the failure where you're just like, it's not fun in the moment, but also it's part of the process where you're like, gosh, dude, yeah, let's get out here and figure it out. Part of that is going to be, it's not going to feel good. I'm going to fail a lot. But then when you start figuring it out, it's just kind of, you feel even better. You're like, man, this was dying and I've got it now and I figured it out. So that's where I'm at with that. I've been still reading Holly, Stephen King book. I'm slowly but surely getting through. Hopefully by next week, I will have completed it. We'll see. Stay tuned on the podcast. But thank you guys. If you made it this way, I'm going to end it here. If you made it this far, thank you guys for tuning in. If you have any, again, I say this all the time, but if you have any recommendations, thoughts, questions, any thoughts on how I can improve the podcast, if there's certain topics you want to hear more about, if my brain truly is broken and I ramble too much, I'm sorry. Feel free to let me know. I don't know how I can fix it, but I'll try. Again, YouTube, I guess, is the place to leave the comment. And with that said, I'll end it there. Thank you guys so much for listening this week. I'll see you guys again next week.